Good morning. This is Lori Hackett Williamson, and I thought that what I would do today, because I have some new people in my classes, is just do a demonstration of the Journey into Power sequence that I teach from. And so I will go through the practice describing each pose as I go. I will not do the exact numbers that are in the Journey of Power, for example, 5 Sun A's and 5 Sun B's. I will do what I think is required to allow you to practice in your body and to kind of get a handle on what the poses look like so that you can kind of work through them, recognizing that doing them right is not the end goal actually, but so many of us are of that mindset. We want to do it right. And honestly, I just want you to do it without injury. So a lot of what I will teach or coach is that same way. So we'll get started. And it's the Baptiste Journey into Power sequence, just not the exact numbers, but the sequence will go in order. And we'll start it in child's pose. And like I said, I'm just going to kind of talk through it. In child's pose, I bring my feet together and I take my knees out wide. So there's the idea is to give the joints their physiologic space and to allow the chest to kind of drop down. And then Ujjayi breath is what we use. It's a breath that comes in through the nose, fills the throat and chest, expands the chest in all directions, and then goes back out through the nose, the throat and the nose very slowly. It's a full diaphragmatic breath. With my hands, I'm pressing down, and I have my yoga support blocks that I use to protect my injured thumb and wrist. But mat or blocks, you press down with your hands, spread your fingers wide, and lift your arms up, creating action in the upper back. And then we'll come up to all fours. This is an inhale. And then go back to downward facing dog. In down dog, my feet come directly out of my hips or my pelvis, pressing into the finger pads. Pressing into the finger pads of each hand. And there's a slight external rotation actually in my hand so that my index finger is facing forward. And then with that slight external rotation, what I do is I actually kind of dial them in a bit and press out, which gets my upper arms working and supporting me. And the distance of down dog, if I come into high plank, so if I bring my heels up to the sky and slide into a high push-up, I should be right over my wrists. I did pretty good. And then back to down dog. Breath in. And breathe out. We're going to step to ragdoll. Ragdoll is a forward fold with your feet as wide as shoulders. Lengthen the spine to get that space in the hamstrings and the low back. And then there's a draping over the legs with a little softness in the knees. Hands can go arm over arm. And there's a kind of a lift here, not a rounding, right, but a lift. What's happening is my feet from big toe to little toes pressing down, creating lift in the arch. Center my heel presses down, creating lift on the outer arch. My thighs are squeezing to lift up, hinging at the hip right here, where the thigh bone meets the pelvis, and working my belly and my chest toward my thighs. Still breathing. Then I will heel toe my feet in, and I work from my narrow hip width of bony pelvis hip width, lengthen the spine, and the spine lengthening is a lot like a deadlift. Press down into the feet, tailbone goes back, crown forward, shoulders lift, breath in, fold, and then rise up, extended mountain. Extended mountain takes the hands over your head. And with my hands over my head, fingers spread wide, thumbs pointing back, arms actually lifting up and pulling back to lay my shoulders onto my back, pressing into my feet, squeezing my thighs, lifting the front of the pelvis up. Head and neck neutral. Breathe in. And then I'm going to fold forward, bend my knees, slowly drop down. Lift and lengthen. And you're going to plant your hands to step back to the low push-up. I'm going to use my support, but go back to low push-up, which is this one. Elbows back, shoulders onto my back, pressing into my feet. Then up dog, toenails down, pressing into the floor, lifting. Head and neck neutral. And then down dog. I'll do one more of those. That's a sun A. Breathe in. And breathe out. Step up. Lengthen, inhale. Fold, exhale. All the way up, reach. Fold all the way down. A key part of our practice, halfway lift, is Drishti. It's where our eyes are focused. I'm looking down right now, so I'm keeping my head neutral. My eye gaze is down. I come back to that same spot over and over. I'm going to keep that while I step back to Chaturanga, a little push-up. Up dog, my gaze is forward again. And then down dog, back to the back of the mat. Kind of reset here in down dog. And then breathe out. And step forward. We'll do sun B this time. Halfway lift. And fold. Still pressing into the feet, keeping the knees over the ankles as much as possible. Tail goes down and arms rise up. So arms still reaching. And then you notice that maybe my ribs pulled up a little bit. So now I'm going to draw the bottom rib toward my pelvis. Take my seat lower. Breathe in. Fold forward. That's chair or Utkatasana. Half lift. And then low push up. Up dog, shoulders back. Down dog, breathe out. Warrior one, right foot comes forward. Back foot anchors down. Anchor just means place the heel down on the floor. To gain access into warrior one, we usually coach it starting with your femurs, thigh bones coming right out of your own pelvis. Press down into the back foot and then knee over your ankle. So like sometimes I have to check my distance and take my right foot a little further forward. Press down on my back foot. The glute should engage. Hamstring is working. Thigh is working. Pelvis working to square. Front ribs toward the pelvis. Reach up. That's warrior one. One more breath. And then take it down, low push up. Up dog. Down dog. Left foot steps. I don't know if you notice what I'm doing to step, but from down dog, I'm bringing my knee right into my chest, coming up to the ball mound of my foot so that with integrity, I'm going as far forward as I can using hip flexors. I keep my knee bent as I anchor my back foot and then rise up. And then I work the pose from there. If it's too far apart, I can just bring my foot back and line them up. Working the ankle over the knee with the thigh as close to parallel as possible. I'm going to press more on my back foot because you can see my hip is opening. I'm going to turn it forward. Use my breath. I'm going to liberate my toes, lift them and then press them back down. Using my left foot from big toe to little toe, center my heel, and pulling my left hip back. And then I'm going to reach my arms up. And then low push up. Up dog. Downward facing dog. Breathe in. And breathe out. We're going to do another one. Step forward, just on the breath. Halfway lift. And fold. One breath chair, line it up, get it going. Fold forward. Lengthen. Low push up. Up dog. Down dog. Warrior one. Low push up. Up dog. Down dog. Warrior one. Low push-up. Up dog. And down dog. From down dog, we'll lift our right leg up. And I'm working my pressing through my left foot, pressing through both hands equally. Bend and stack and open, go hip over hip. A flip dog, come up to the ball mound of your left foot, bend your left knee, place your right foot on the other side, shift over, left hand down, open up, flip dog. Reach back to the ceiling. Go back to downward facing dog. Side plank, right arm down. Plant your right hand firmly on the mat. Index finger forward, stack shoulders over, wrists, lift up. You can take it into wild thing. Left leg would go up and behind you. Wild thing different than flip dog. Right leg straight, left leg bent. And then take it around, low push up. Trying to work through the common variations. Left leg, so feet start hip width, left leg up. There's usually a pause here to kind of get power into the thigh and integration. And then bend and stack. Ball mound of your right foot, bend your right knee. Left foot goes next to right. Move your right foot over so that when you twist open, you're lined up. Looking for shoulder in line with hip. Both feet square to the back. Opening. Take it back up. And down dog. Some people will do this from plank. They'll come into high plank and then go side plank. Options, you could drop your knee down. I prefer when you're building strength to bring your right foot in front at like a right angle. And then you can lift it up behind you for a wild thing. And then take it back around. And in the low push-up, you could take your knees down, up dog, and down dog. Right leg lifts. You're gonna bring your knee into your chest again. Step up, crescent lunge, back heel lifted. Back heel's right over the ball mound of my foot. Sorry, waistband issues. And then reach your arms up. I have this tool where I'll take thumb over thumb and create this connection. My index fingers, what it does is it allows me to pull my shoulders back a little better and reach up. And then I'm gonna try to get my right thigh parallel. So straight down, lift my left hip up. We're gonna twist to the right. Hands together, elbow to the edge of the thigh, twist open, breathe in, and breathe out. That's a crescent lunge twist. We're gonna open up into warrior two. Warrior two, hips are now facing the side of the mat. They're open. Working for a deep, long lunge, working toward parallel, not quite there. Press more into both heels. This is a reverse warrior. And then sometimes we'll straighten the front leg just to get a little space in the joint. And then come right in. Extend to side angle. We'll start with your elbow on the top of your leg. Both pelvic bones going sideways, pressing in both feet. You can also take your hand down. I like the outside of my leg. What this does is I can use my whole foot, pull my femur back in, and I create this external rotation or abduction. And then working to stack my shoulders. And when I do, I'm gonna try to open my chest a little more. And then we're gonna come down, low push up. Up dog. And downward facing dog. Left foot lifts. And knee into chest. And set it up, crescent lunge. It's normal to feel that be a little easier on one side than the other. Don't sweat it. just work through it. This is the crescent lunge, really fingers lifting, thumbs back. Then hands to chest center, twist left. Working the palms toward the center of the chest, both shoulders on your back. Breath in and out. Open, warrior two. You're just seeing it from the other side, both arms reaching. The reverse, if you want to straighten the leg, and then back in, extended side angle. Notice I'm not collapsing my shoulder. I'm pressing down to lift up, which is the other helpful tool with the block on the outside. You can really press down, pulling both femurs into the pelvis. And then low push up. You just take both hands down, step your foot back. Up dog, drishti forward. Your eye gaze, down dog. Lift the back of the mat. Breathe in. Breathe out. So typically I will step forward. I'm just going to show you the jump. For the jump, you come to the ball mounds of your feet, bend your knees, and you float up. Lift and fold. It's just an option. Chair twist. So deep chair, hands to heart, twist straight. Breath in and breath out. Center and fold. It's big toe pose. You scoop up your big toes with your two first fingers. Take your feet outside of your hip width, shoulder width, and then pull yourself down in an active forward fold. Different than ragdoll. Now you're using your shoulders, your upper back to pull in. Creates a deeper, more active fold. Sometimes you feel a bigger stretch in your upper back, bigger stretch in the hamstrings. Still breathing. Then heel to the feet back in. And again, I use this very narrow hip width for everything. You want to find that place where things line up for you. Those of you who have narrower hips, your legs may come really close together. I discourage the squeezing the knees in chair because it changes the angle of the hip and it takes the power out of the pose. So I press down and out with my feet and pull my femurs back in. And then that gives me more stability in this twist, working both hips, both knees, all in one line. And then working the twist here. One more breath. And then fold. Gorilla pose, you step onto your hands, fingers to wrist creases. And this can be wider or narrower based on where you want to feel the pose. Bend your knees, press down and fold. Still using your arms to pull in. And then after gorilla, we heel to the feet in together. We're going to go into crow pose. So I'm going to have to use my blocks just because of the injury, but normally you would take your hands flat on the floor like this and bring your knees in, okay? So I will tell you, using the blocks is not an easier thing, but it gives me access. So knees on the backs of my arms a little bit, shin bones really rooting in, drawing my feet in, pulling up, 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 up. And there's this teetering place. And then you're gonna chaturanga, you squeeze in and just shoot back and then up dog. That is not something you have to learn overnight. I just want you to have the tools. Step forward, lengthen, and fold. Rise up, extended mountain. We're gonna go into eagle. For eagle, you wrap your right arm under. You come into a high chair, wrap your right leg over. Okay, so what it's going to look like from wrap over, and then working both pelvis, the whole pelvis square, sit bone down. You can completely wrap that foot around. I lose my integrity when I do that, so I tend to just hug in. Extended mountain. We'll do the other side. Looking for length in the spine, arms lifted. And then reach up. So there's another, if this bind and your arms isn't accessible, you can bring your arms together like this and lift and pull back. It's going to work the muscles the same way. Sit down and then extend. And then if the wrap is tough, you can take your foot down to the floor or a block and hug in like this and really squeeze. It gains access. And then release. Oh, hands to heart. We'll go standing leg raise. So for me, square mountain is really important. Making sure that I'm in the mountain, the Tadasana. My root into my left foot. It's at 12 o'clock. Lift my right leg up. I'm going to create this connection between my right hand. I'm going to pull my shoulders back. Let me take it out to the right. And look to the left. Options here. You could have gone full extension. If your right leg lifted, goal is to keep your back square. I tend to get my shoulder too far out of whack this way, and then open it to the side that way. And come back to the knee. Come back to center. Reach your arms up for length. Usually a straight leg is encouraged here, and then we swing it back to airplane pose where you're gonna open. So the shoulders will lift, chest will open, working to square the right foot with the, working to square the right hip with the left. We take our hands to heart center, and then we take our left hand down. This is half moon pose. And spin open. So the instability was me losing the connection with my big toe mound. So I'm gonna come back to square. I'm gonna change the kind of block I'm using. I'm gonna root down in my left hand. Pulling my femur into my left hip. Once this pose is achieved, you can reach back and catch your ankle for sugar cane. Let your shoulder open. The back bend of sorts, reach, look up, look up, look up, and then fold down. So you can see that that's a challenge. It's a challenge for most people. Rise up. But the level of challenge, it's kind of fun to always have one, right? If it's all easy, then what's the real point? You have to create the challenge, whether the challenge is in visual focus and breath. Open it out, left leg. Working not to lean. I felt myself just in lean over, working to get my spine straight. So back to center, arms up, leg out, airplane. Sometimes our challenge is just forgiving and grace and breath. Sometimes the challenge is physical, hands to heart, right arm down. I'm gonna do this one without the block just for a different visual for you. Major C goes to the side wall, and if I can, it goes up. As my gaze goes up, my shoulders stack better. I know this. I'm gonna take the bind on this side. This is called sugar cane. And then foot goes down. And we'll rise to mountain. I grabbed a strap. It is how I do dancer. Props can be bought from Manduka. Manduka is a yoga supply line. I love their blocks and their straps and their towels. And the mat I'm using is actually a Lululemon mat, which is my favorite. So for dancer, you have two choices. Like I use the strap. I'll show you without first. Your right hand would go out, thumb is back. You're gonna catch your right foot. And then the goal is, so like what most people do is they'll open this way. So already the pose is deteriorated. You wanna square shoulders and pelvis to the front. And you're gonna lift straight up in the back. The left arm will go up for balance and for centering and integration. So when I use the strap, I step into the strap with my foot. Make sure that my left foot is also on 12 o'clock. Take the strap behind me like Santa sack. Take both hands to the strap. My elbows will stay bent like I'm doing a French press. Bend my standing knee, press into my left foot a lot, lift through my right foot. Goal is to elbows to the ceiling, fist to the back wall, drishti forward. That's eye gaze again. One breath in. And then slowly, I'm gonna switch it out. I have to make sure my right foot stays straight. I will tell you, my right foot really has a tendency to want to turn out. So I have to drive it down, recognizing the feet are basically the steering the rudder for your entire body, and pelvis for sure. So into pelvis, if the pelvis is off, shoulders are off. So feet, then pelvis. And this side's a little bit more challenging for me to square, press down on my right foot. And what I've discovered is that I will pull my right hip back, and then it will get a little bit better. Gaze up. And then we'll do one more on each side. I'll do them without the strap, just so you can see I don't have nearly the access without the strap. Switch. And foot down. Moving to tree pose. Right leg up, anchor into the left foot, right foot can come to the inner thigh. You can really go anywhere that's comfortable on your leg. So, if, you know, the inner thigh is where I try to go because that opening feels really great to me, but it could be right here in your ankle. It actually could, you could cup your arch over your knee. No, you're not going to jam your knee out doing this. You know, anchor into your left foot, come hug in right there. The trick is you want your foot at 12 o'clock. So don't internally or externally rotate your foot. Press the ball mound and the heel in equally. Get long, hands start at your heart. You can raise them up over your head. And then we'll switch sides. I was just squaring my feet. Left thigh up. So our bodies are our bodies, and we have imbalances. And I've got some hip issues. So I will see these imbalances come up in my stance, not infrequently. The practice is to undo some of those imbalances, to start to work with, and then step out, to work with your body, but to create balance in it. Don't give into the malalignment that you walk around with. Instead, start to work to shift and change the malalignment to be aligned. Back to the top of the mat. I'm actually going to get a drink. I'm talking through this makes my throat dry. Self-care is always a part of the practice too. So if at any point in time you need a drink or a break, you take one. You sit down on your mat, you drink, you breathe with the class, and then you come back when you're ready. So we'll start with extended mountain. It's an in breath, exhale, fold. Lift and lengthen in. And then you can jump back. I usually step. The jump is not different than jumping forward. You press down into your hands. Exhale, curl and fly. And then up dog. And down dog. Right foot forward, warrior one. Remember warrior one, hips square to this wall, right to the front of your mat. And I love in this warrior one to open into a back bend. So rooting deep into the feet, pelvis square, arms lifted, and then up and back. And I'll center, open to warrior two. And these are poses, they're also preparation for triangle. You can reverse the warrior is a nice way to get in, straightening your front leg. Now I'm really pressing. I even lifted my heel, pressing through the ball mound of my foot a lot, taking my right hip back under the left, trying to keep both sides of the pelvis on the same plane. Reach long forward. A block is super handy here on the outside of your right foot. You root down into the block. I even press into the block and pull back a little bit, engaging my upper back, then shoulder over shoulder stacking. And then we'll bend our front knee, rotate the right foot in, lengthen your spine, and then fold into a straddle fold. You want to press down into the floor, hug in, and then we will intentionally shoulders onto our back, rise up to stand. We're going to turn our feet. This is pyramid pose. Pyramid is like a shortened warrior one. Right foot will step in slightly. So not a long way. Your feet about the distance from heel to toe, from front heel to back toe as your torso. Your left foot is turned to the side slightly. I didn't speak to that in Warrior One, but instead of turning the foot all the way this way, we recommend like a 45-degree angle. So you're kind of facing the corner of your mat, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock with the back foot. So you want to have access to it, but you also want to be able to rotate forward. So this is pyramid pose stance in the legs. We will usually do a reverse namaste, which is a little challenging for my wrist. Reverse namaste looks like this. Shoulders up and back. And now draw the front ribs down. Then I'm going to hinge over my front leg. And goal is pelvis square, little release in head and neck. Then we'll drop our hands down typically. A block. I use the inside of my foot. We teach it to the outside of the foot. It's a lot harder to keep the pelvis square in my body for that. So I go to the inside and line it up and open. This block can be tall. Some people will come to the outside of their foot, right? I lose my integrity there. There's the twisting triangle, working my head and neck neutral, looking up at my right hand, and then come down. We'll go through the Chaturanga Up Dog Vinyasa, stepping back, lower, up dog, down dog. That's like the rinse cycle. In down dog, your feet don't have to reach the floor. As the practice progresses, my feet tend to reach the floor, but when I first start, they don't. And they may not reach the floor. It's okay, it doesn't really matter. You're still pressing through the heels. So even if your feet don't reach the floor, you're pressing through the heels to get that space. Left leg forward, it's Warrior One. And this is the one where I love the back bend. And Warrior Two. Looking for some nice space, kind of wrists over ankles-ish, thighs close to parallel as possible. And then we're gonna go into triangle. We'll go in a different way this time. I'll straighten my leg first and get the reach. Pressing through both feet really equally. My left foot, ball mound to, so big toe to little toe rooting down, heel rooting down, arches are lifting, femur into the pelvis, pulling back. Right foot, pressing down into big toe mound, little toe mound, center my heel, pulling my heel back, getting to the glute to try to stack this pelvis over this one. And come up. So you can turn the toes in again and do a forward fold. Sometimes here we'll do goddess squat, feet out. Just come into a squat and we'll play with it, lifting the heels, putting the heels down, and then we'll turn the feet in and fold forward. Get my booty, and then raise up, turning the feet for pyramid. An option to the reverse namaste, some people will interlace their hands behind their back. So you can use a strap for that too, squeezing the strap, lifting up, and folding over the left leg. If you do this, you really want to squeeze the strap, pull it apart, lift it away from you, like really work to open the shoulders, especially for people who work forward, doctors and people on computers and things like that. So much of your life, moms, your life is so forward. So opening the shoulders back is like imperative, really. Root into both feet. And I start my twist from my bottom hand. So my feet are set, squeezing and lifting, tailbone back, crown forward. And I'm going to press into my right hand. I'm going to take my left hand right next to my right hand. I'm going to peel it open, stopping right here, getting the chest to twist, and then opening up as much as I can. Yeah, see the softness in my knee? You can keep it soft or you can straighten it. I'm just pressing through my feet, really working both pelvises in one line. Breath in, and then low push up. Up dog, and then downward dog. Next, we inhale slowly, plank, exhale down. Usually start with one ear to the floor. And we come to center, press into the feet. This is locust pose. It's a belly back bend. Press down in the pubic bone, press down the ball ends of the feet. So you can use your hands right here. You can do like airplane arms. You can do parachute arms. You can interlace behind your back. Whatever you do, you don't want to just roll the shoulders out of the sockets. You want to pull the shoulders up to the ears, lift them up to the sky. Let your arms like keep the lift and then lift your legs up. Locust, 3, 2, and 1. Come down, other ear down, and relax. And then center, and go back up, locust. Come down. Floor bow, bend your knees, reach back, grab your ankles or your feet if you have to. You want to flex your feet. You're going to lift your shoulders up and pull them onto your back. Then use your legs, you press back and then lift up. Press back and lift up. Come down, other ear. Center the chin. One more of those. Dhanurasana or bow. Shoulders on your back. Press back, lift up. Press back, lift up. I'm pulling with my arms, so they're not just loosely dangling. Back down. Hands by your side. This is for up dog. So my hands are widespread, index finger facing forward, shoulders on my back. Slowly evolving. Now toenails down, trying to keep my feet square. Breath in, down dog. Knees down. Camel pose. You can, for camel, you could take a block and stick it between your knees. You could take another block wide, stick it between your ankles, shins, more shins, right? So these are, like I press down into my knees, my thighs are internally rotating back, pressing down. I use the ball mounds on my feet. This helps me stay integrated. Some people feel much more comfortable with the toenails down. It is harder to keep the feet square that way, and it's a longer reach to the heels. So I practice it up. And then I always have this, you want to get your shoulders integrated on your back. So I will tend to reach up, pull down in cactus arms. And then the back bend starts from the sternum really. So squeezing, maintaining this straight, opening from the upper back. Start with your hands on your buttocks. You can walk them down to thighs. And gently just come up and take a little break and sit. It's a great place for a drink of water. Great place to regain focus and come right back. Maybe this time you can go a little deeper. It's always nice to have a lion's breath here. Big breath in. And chin up. So sometimes we will go through down dog here, or we'll just roll over to the back. So if you go through down dog, then you will push back to down dog, take a breath, and then you will hop through to your seat, roll to your back, and come up in bridge. A tool for bridge is also the block between your ankles, or right at your feet, really, way down, and lift up in bridge. So looking for the knees to stack over the ankles, the shoulders strap under your body. It's a nice high back bend. You want to press into both feet equally. And then we're going to roll down from the upper to the middle to the lower back. And then our practice has one bridge and 6 wheels in it. I'll demonstrate one wheel, and I'll tell you that because of some limitations, you may not see my arms straighten, but that's the goal. So you're going to press down. I always start from bridge, press down, roll up, get your shoulders underneath, empty your air, press up, empty, then breathe. Your feet are square, pressing equally hands and feet, tuck your chin, and we roll down. We will typically do more than one. And then the next pose is Supta Baddha Konasana, or butterfly. So the feet come together and knees go out. If that's hard on your low back, you can do the opposite and take your feet out, let your knees drop in. Sometimes one breath here and then here feels good. And then we bring our knees to our chest. So after back bending, the next part of the sequence is stability, which people will refer to as abs. There are 3 exercises that really 4, that we typically use in the Baptiste practice. Scissor legs, 30, 60, 90 lowers, bicycles, and boat pose or Navasana. I'm just going to demonstrate them a little bit for interest of time. So for the scissor legs, you will take your hands and place them behind your head. And I actually do this, press my head back into my hands and then lift up. That gives me super great support. I'm not pulling on my neck. And then you're reaching through both feet, flexed feet or flointed feet. My thighs are squeezing. I'm going to lift up and I'm just going to scissor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you can, there are lots of variations that we do of those, but that is it. It is basic pose. You're going to take your hands underneath your low back, plant your entire spine on the floor, lower your legs 1/3 of the way, breathe. 2/3, really press through your feet, draw your femurs into your pelvis, and then you hover, and then just really chin to chest. Tighten, 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 and then bring your legs back up. The next exercise are bicycles. Yoga bicycles are a little different than everybody's exercise bicycles. You press your right leg forward, take your right elbow to your left knee, come back to right over your hips, like that. And then usually I curl in, or rock back and up, and boat pose, Navasana. I take my hands outside of my shins and I press in and out, which keeps me integrated. Some people are just really great and can do this. Some have bent knees. Some have feet on the floor. You choose what works in your body. These are just some options I've come up with. And then we will rock back and over our feet into down dog. And there are lots of variations there. You can do a full vinyasa or just step back. And then we're going to bring our right foot forward. It's half pigeon pose. So the foot comes to the left, the knee to the right. And I'm pretty picky about setup of these poses. Back leg straight out of the back pelvis, turn down. So the ball band of the foot is if you're standing. This front leg is slightly abducted and externally rotated. Breathe in, slowly lower down. Looking to keep the pelvis square. A few breaths here. And then down dog. We usually hold those a little longer. I'm just shortening it for time. Left side, half pigeon, same setup. Making sure that I'm square. I keep my toes turned under here. Just keeps my legs square. If you lay the foot down like that, it's okay. I tend to sickle it. So I keep mine usually there. And you can take your whole torso down, right? We're gonna shift our weight to the left hip. We're gonna do double pigeon. Back leg comes around. You stack it, and you should be in the right position. Lift the pelvis up so that both sits bones get square. Notice that my ankle is hanging off my knee. So I am not perfectly stacked. I don't have that mobility, but my hips are square, right? And then you start to work this hip down, you feel it here. And then transition to the other side. Right leg down, left leg over. And I'll do the little shift again. Lift up, get both sits bones square, and then fold. That's double pigeon. And then I'll come up. And the next pose is frog pose. Frog pose can be done on the wall or on your back, but the traditional practice is knees down. Some people will roll the edges of their mat to protect because the knees are sensitive. It doesn't bother the inner edges of my knees. So I take my feet out, turn out, right, like a frog. My knees right out of my own pelvis. You're on the sides of your knees, okay? So you wear the inner thigh side. And then you gently just take your chest down and you let your body rest in. To come out, you just gently push your body forward. Use your hands, bring your legs back in. Just like that, and come up. We'll meet on our seat. Get your sits bones square. Bring your right foot into the left thigh. Big reach up with both hands. Bend over your left leg. Starting with it bent is actually gives you a little more access. And you can straighten it. This is seated single leg forward fold. We'll come up and switch sides. Squaring the pelvis. You'll notice that most of my teaching has to do with feet and pelvis. I believe that if you get the feet square, the femurs into the pelvis, the rest of the body will align. Then a little added attention to the shoulder girdle, which basically does for the upper back what the pelvis does for the lower back. So to keep it lined up, you're really engaging, pulling your arms up and back. Reach up and then fold forward. And you'll come up. Tabletop is next. I turn my hands out a little bit. It's a wrist issue. You can go just like that, right? But I turn mine out a little bit. Press down, lift up. Drop down, fish pose. You take your hands and I go way under my seat. I've got long arms. You're gonna puff up on your elbows, chest lifting, and then take the crown of the head so the throat opens. Sometimes it's fun to pull the lower teeth. over the upper teeth and get a little better stretch under your chin. And then release. So it's time for an inversion. There are 3 popularly taught inversions in our practice. The headstand is the traditional one for headstand, the yoga headstand. We tend to tell you, so you're measuring off. If you interlace your hands at the top of the mat, you should be able to cup your own arm bones. That's how close you want your arms. So really, elbows coming right out of shoulders. I will tell you, I've adapted to my hands down instead of cupped because of some injuries. So my hands down, still pressing into the floor of my arms. Lay my head right at the edge of the thumb, so you press in. So I'm in the crown of my head. I'm not on the ponytail. I'm not on my forehead. I'm on the crown. Press into your arms. One leg up, the other knee into your chest, and pause. Press into your arms more. Then both legs up, flexing your feet, squeezing your thighs, pressing into your arms. Let your shoulders do the work. Now, Sirsasana B is like a pike down. It's kind of hard on my neck. I tend to bend my knees and draw it in. Come down. There's a child's pose there. So that's one option. Another there's actually handstand and forearm stand as well. They're a little bit more advanced. I'm not going to teach them today. And then shoulder stand is another option. And I will tell you that shoulder stand is much more nice if you have some support under your shoulders with a blanket, or you can roll your mat. And so the shoulders would actually lay on that part, so my head is going to come off. You curl your knees in, you're going to press down and go up. Some people will start in plow, stacking their pelvis right over their shoulders and then legs up. Working elbows in, reaching through your feet, squeezing the seat. And then you come out through plow, one leg or both legs. If your feet don't touch the floor, it's really okay, but maybe soften and keep your hands on your low back. And then ear pressure pulls, you bring your knees down by your ears. If that's too much, you bring them to your forehead. And then we roll out. And generally we'll take a happy baby here. Happy baby pulling down. I've got my fingers on my big toes pulling down. Another option for an inversion, much more restorative option, is waterfall. In Texas, we tend to say legs up the wall. You take a block under your low back, reach your legs up. And once you've reached through your legs, you squeeze them really tight, draw the femurs in, and then you just find ease there. That place where the legs dingle, and it becomes restorative. After inversion, it's a twist. You can grab your right leg, pull it in, shift your hips over and twist. I really like hip over hip. Back to center. And twist. Some versions of this, some people will cross right leg over left, right? And so if you do that, you still shift hips over and you take your legs over. And then you can come back. And the same thing, left leg over right, shift your hips and twist. So you're shifting your hips so the spine stays in one line, right? And come back to center. Take a pause. Soles of the feet together, butterfly. And this is pre-Shavasana. And then extend your legs. And Shavasana, dead man's pose, let go of everything. And then knees into chest, roll to your side. Press to seated. Take a pause. Namaste. I hope that's helpful. You can leave questions in the comments and I will try to explain or answer some more.